Hello, this is Sanat here, and welcome back to the Soundcast, episode 17. This week, we got a lot of interesting topics to talk about, and I have a whole stack of new Kyuranger toys sitting next to me, so I apologize if this seems rushed, but I'm a little bit excited to open those. So, let's talk about Bandai again. I don't like to make every toy news segment every week about Bandai, but they're doing a lot right now, and it's kind of exciting. First of all, for those of you wondering, the Paradox buckle I talked about last week turned out to just have sound effects. It's got the sound effects for all the power-ups, plus a few lines of Paradox himself speaking, and that's it. No other bonuses, so $35 plus middleman fees and shipping for a buckle that makes noise. Something I'm definitely not getting that, I can guarantee it. Anyways, let's move along. What I want to talk about this week was Bandai's new SH Figuarts for Kamen Rider Ex-Aid, because finally this line seems to get going now. Before now, we had the three main Ex-Aid riders, Ex-Aid Brave and Snipe, and then we had Ex-Aid Dragonite Hunter as well, and then Laser in his bike form as an exclusive, and that was it. Like, it was just dead for a month, and I was like, where are all the Figuarts of the cool stuff? Like, I'm not going to go out and buy these Figuarts unless I know there's more. So, Bandai was like, oh, sorry, guess we just didn't show anything for a while. Here you go. Have fun. So first of all, the newest Figuarts that are coming out that we've known about for a little while is the Dragonite Hunter versions of Snipe and Brave, which are premium Bandai exclusives. I think they're limited to like 2,000 a piece. It's just them with the alternate, with the arm, with the special Dragonite arm. It's not the full armor for them. But on that page, they actually had a teaser for two more Figuarts. Two I've actually been looking for. First of all is Kamen Rider Laser Dragonite Gamer Level 5, I think is the name. It's Dragonite Hunter on Laser, which means it's a full-body laser figure. And I'm like, alright, Bandai, you're getting my attention already because I want a laser Figuart. That's something I put on my list of like, I want this. However, I don't think I want the Dragonite Hunter version. I would really like to see the Kyoryuger Chambara version, since his level 3 form is kind of what I associate with Laser as a rider. So the thing is, because we have this, we're like one step closer to getting that level 3. So Laser level 5 looks great. I'm just not sure if I'm going to get it. But then again, I might just get it and then just also get the level 3 version. You know, maybe that'll just happen too. But apparently there's something going on with him releasing in October, I think, and possibly pre-orders going up from May 19th, so does that make him an exclusive? Maybe? I don't really know. Bandai teaser pages can be confusing. The next one, which is the one everybody's been talking about, Kamen Rider Gim Zombie Gamer Level X, and that is looking like a great Figuart. I love how they have it on display in the Akiba showroom, where he's just full-on zombie mode, leaning back, reaching out. Looks amazing. I love that suit design so much, and I definitely will be getting that. Regardless of how it's released, I'm getting Zombie Gim. That's a guarantee. He looks really, really good. We also have the Mighty Brothers Double X. Now these, I think depending on how these are sold, depends on whether I want to get them. I do like the concept of the Mighty Brothers Double X. I do like how they have an adjoined shoulder piece, so it's not like the Level Up Rider series where it's kind of like a close approximation of them lining up, but this is actually an adjoined shoulder piece. Now, will it be like the Level Up Riders where they're sold separately, or will they be sold together? I don't really know, but I want to know. I definitely want to know how they're going to release them. It would be nice if they were just a 2-pack. I'd honestly be okay with that. But yeah, these are in the maybe category, because I do think the idea behind Mighty Brothers Double X is really cool. And then Bandai was like, alright, so we put all those in a case, and people took pictures of them. Ooh, we forgot a couple. And we know that Sound Out over in America is just going to go nuts over these and want to buy them, so we better show them off now. And here we are, Kamen Rider Paradox, Perfect Puzzle Gamer, and Perfect Knockout, or Perfect Puzzle Gamer and Knockout Fighter Gamer. Yeah, both main versions of Paradox. So we got Kamen Rider Paradox, Perfect Puzzle, and Kamen Rider Paradox Knockout Fighter, both level 50 forms. I don't think this is the same figure. I think these are two separate figures. I think they'll be sold individually. But holy crap, do I want these. They look beautiful. They really do look fantastic, and the final versions look anything close to this good. I'm buying both of them. For sure, perfect puzzle, and probably going to get Knockout Fighter as well. I love Paradox's suit designs. I like that character. I really want Figuarts of him, and I'm probably going to pick up both of these. These look really, really fantastic. So, good job, Bandai. You just got me to want a bunch of Ex-Aid Figuarts, and now I feel like I need to go get Ex-Aid Brave and Snipe as well. I'm probably not going to pick up the Dragon Knight Hunter level 5 for Ex-Aid, because it's just extra stuff I don't need. And also probably not going to buy the laser bike since it's exclusive. So anyways, Kamen Rider Ex-Aid Figuarts have become a thing now, and that's wonderful. Just how many of these are going to be exclusive, and how many of these are actually going to be released? These are the questions that I want to know. But I will update you all in the future because this is something that excites me. Yeah. And yes, I use the word excite on purpose as a pun. I am a dork sometimes. I apologize. Moving along, let's talk about our next subject. I want to do an opinion segment this week on a piece of news we got because it got me thinking, and I like thinking. So Saban Brands filed new trademarks, and this isn't usually anything big. We got the Power Rider trademark that they filed for years ago, and that never turned out to be anything, which was kind of sad. I thought it would have been interesting if they did adapt Kamen Rider to America. But we did get a recent thing where Saban Brands, because Saban Brands is a different company than Saban Entertainment in the past, as of 4/19/2017, Saban Brands has registered trademarks for Beetleborgs and VR Troopers, specifically in the realm of live-action television series, pre-recorded DVDs, and random clothing apparel items. So, with the success of the Power Rangers movie and the merchandise for Power Rangers, I think honestly this is just, oh, we're keeping the rights to this for DVD purposes, like Shout Factory DVDs are out there. And then live-action television series, I guess, is the series itself, or possibly a new production. And then clothing apparel, that could be, we could be seeing Beetleborgs and VR Troopers t-shirts. Hit that 90s nostalgia button. But, you know, that's most likely the possibilities. But I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, let's speculate. Let's think about what they could do with a new adaptation of a Japanese Toku show into VR Troopers or Beetleborgs. So I'm going to talk about one idea for each, basically, because there's a lot of possibilities you could go with. But I'm going to talk about, for VR Troopers, I think VR Troopers could be rebooted using footage from Kamen Rider Ex-Aid, with it already being video game based. And by the way, I'm not the first person to say this either. I saw this all over Twitter. Why don't we use Ex-Aid as VR Troopers? Okay, so I thought about it a step further. Basically, how the plot could run is that VR video games are very popular now, but there are viruses infecting these video games. So a group of teenagers have to go in to the video game and fight off the viruses, and the viruses can be the bugsters, and that way you can just have them go into a world that's very similar to Japan. Where the complications would arise, they'd need to do some new footage, because there's a lot of footage of Ex-Aid with Japanese civilians. But you also could write around that and say that those are game characters, and that's why they look Japanese. You know, that's a possibility. The only thing I think they could run into problems with is a lot of the Ex-Aid designs are kind of strange, and a bright pink and green writer leading a show may be problematic for them. That being said, they could do similar to what they did with VR Troopers and mix in another show, or switch the characters around so that Brave's the main character or Snipe's the main character, and then just kind of attract the audience with a different look to it. But I think that Ex-Aid would be a good source for a VR Troopers show. And maybe not a full season, like a full 2 years like Power Rangers does, but maybe just like a 1 season, 20 episode thing. I think they could pull enough footage to make that work. That would be really interesting. Now, these trademarks don't go to toys, but I'm sure if they do a VR Trooper series, they have the rights to that. They could also file for the toy rights. But yeah, that's like a thought that I saw on Twitter. At the same time, like I was just thinking, like, yeah, VR Troopers made from Kamen Rider Ex-Aid could work. It would be really interesting to see. For Big Bad Beetleborgs, this is tricky because Kamen Rider hasn't had we haven't had a Metal Hero series, obviously, since Kabutak, which they're not going to adapt Kabutak now. That would be kind of ridiculous. But Beetleborgs naturally needs to be Beetle-based, and what show is Beetle-based that we've had, or bug-based in the last few years of Kamen Rider? Not many as it used to be. They're all very bug-based. I think the closest thing would be Kabuto, but much like how Dragon Knight adapted Kamen Rider Ryuki about 6 years later, this would be also kind of a strange thing because Kabuto was in 2006. So, we'd be doing this like 12, 13 years later, which would be kind of insane. But at the same time, a lot of the Kabuto footage was very high quality and was HD, so you could adapt it fairly easily because it's an adjustment. You just have to adjust the footage to match. But the tricky part, I think, with Beetleborgs is that there is no recent Beetle show or bug-based show for Kamen Rider to use, and I'd say Kamen Rider would be the source over, say, for example, the Metal Hero series, since that's just movies right now, and none of them have been bug-based movies. That being said, they could do their own show. They could do their own movie. Start fresh, do something similar. Probably keep the core concept of kids becoming heroes, but you could change it up as well. So, kind of an interesting thing to think about. These patents are probably just done for licensing of the old shows, but, trademarks are trademarks. Things can go somewhere and things can go nowhere. Sometimes companies just get them to hold on to them. That's pretty much all I got to say on that. That's pretty much all the thoughts I had when I was thinking about it. But yeah, let me know in comments below what you think would be a good way to adapt VR Troopers and Beetleborgs from Japanese series. Let me know your thoughts. I'm curious to see what you all come up with. Anyways, let's move along to This Week in Toku. Alright, so welcome to This Week in Toku, the segment of the show where we talk about this week's tokusatsu shows. Once again, I'm going off when things were subtitled. So, technically, Kyoryuger Brave Episode 3 did get subbed last week after I recorded the Soundcast, which is when I was just talking about 1 and 2. So we'll talk about it this week, and then 4 hasn't been subbed yet, so we'll talk about it next week. That's just kind of how it's going to be for that show, since the subs for that don't seem to come out till Friday or Saturday, and I record on Thursdays. So let's start out with our first show, Uchu Sentai Kyuranger, Space 12, the 11 Ultimate All-Stars. This episode was fantastic. For whatever reason, I think that Kyuranger underwent a retool. When the series began, it kind of is running a different format than it is now. A lot of things have changed. Character personalities have been modified, like Lucky has been completely redone. And there's also just been an overall, let's get the 11 Kyurangers in place now instead of the 9. Let's get the 11 in here, let's get all the mecha in here, and then just like pump the brakes for 2 months. And I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in May and June, since there's no new mecha and there's just one new power-up happening. So there's not a lot of toys in the next 2 months, even though we've gotten a ton in February, March, April. So it's going to be interesting to see how things are going to play out. I think there's going to be a more plot-focused arc before we have the next mecha appear. Especially since we already got the combination out of the way in this episode. So this episode, we get the debut of Ryute Kurino. We also get the 11 Kyurangers being united at once, which is great, and resolution to last week's plot developments. So let's run it down. First of all, Lucky. Lucky is a character that has a very tragic past. He was just left on a planet after his family was presumably killed and their house burned down, and that's a really interesting way of approaching it. And I think that the explanation for why he yells out, talk about Lucky all the time, is that because the universe isn't lucky right now. It's under strain and stress from the Empire taking it over, and he's going to keep shouting it out so that people will be lucky again. And I think that's a great way of doing it, instead of just being an annoying catchphrase like Takaharu and him being fired up. Like, it's a lot better of a reasoning behind it, and I think that it's really cool, and it's a good little character moment as well. And then also the character moments between him and Garu was really neat because they had a connection back in the first episode, so it kind of like brought all that together, which was really nice. And seeing the Kyurangers take a more offensive approach to fighting Ike again, and having the initial attack squad, which went out and fought him, and then they got some data on him, and they're like, oh, he's got 10 eyes, so we need 11 Rangers to defeat him, which makes sense, because there's now 11 Rangers. And then they found out that he has way more eyes than that, and that's when Lucky uses the Gemini Kyutama and multiplies himself 100 times. And I know for some people that probably was very hard for them, because if you don't like Lucky, that scene is tricky, because there's 100-something Luckies there, and it could be a little obnoxious, but it didn't last too long, which is nice. But it was so awesome for him to just kind of stroll up and then just clone himself a bunch, take out all the eyes of Ikugen, and then they were able to defeat him. I do feel like with Kyuranger, having all 11 Rangers on the battlefield was cool, but I think that like the fight choreography kind of takes a back seat because they're trying to figure out how to get 11 people. And I know that's like usually Sentai is 5 to 6 people, so you have your 5 to 6 main suit actors that are like experienced professionals that do this week to week. But then to get 11 out there, you're going to have to get other people that may not be as experienced. So the overall choreography of the fight seemed a little lacking in places. But I did like how they matched up projectile weapons with melee weapons, and it was really cool that way. I thought that was pretty neat overall how the fight played out. But it could have been a little bit more dynamic, I think, just a bit. But overall, I thought that having all the Kyurangers together was great. I also like the Kyutama SP just being the Kyutama that rolls out of the Qlet when all of them need to go to a fight. So that was pretty neat. I think the Qlet's probably tied into the Q energy, which means that it's going to spill out as many Kyuranger Kyutama that there will be, just in general, I think, if it's like, oh, we can afford 6 Kyurangers, well, here's a 6, or we can only afford 5, or we can afford 11, etc., etc. I thought it was really cool. Also, the roll call is just awesome to see with all of them in place. And it was interesting because Lucky did not get picked for the Qlet chance at the beginning of the episode, which was the first. Neither did Sho Lanpo, so we had the two. So if they needed to form a mecha, they were out of luck because they didn't have a torso. So luckily they didn't need to form a mecha this episode. But overall, I thought Space 12 was really good. Ryute Kurino is a very clunky combination in the show. I don't really like it that much. But I'm going to see how it is in the toy. The toy's sitting right next to me in a box, and I really want to open it. Let's talk about Kyoryuger Brave, or Power Rangers Dino Force Brave, since the version I'm watching is Dino Force Brave. Kyoryuger Brave is so interesting because it's a sequel to Kyoryuger that takes place in the future, that has a revived Torin, Candelaria, and Luckiro leading a new team of Kyoryugers in what I assume is Korea. I don't know. They don't actually ever explain any of these things. That's because they don't really have time to. This episode was episode 3, which was Gabba Gabba Rin-Show, all members together. Approximate translation there. And basically the idea was to get all 5 brave Kyoryugers together. And it was really nice to see them fight each other, because black and blue and green and pink are like split off into 2 different personality groups. And so green and pink get along, black and blue get along, but then they don't get along with each other. But then red's just like, we're all like family. We fight with each other sometimes, but we're family, so we gotta work together. And they're like, okay, that sounds good. And then they just move on, and they go fight monsters. And it was really cool. I liked how the first fight scene of the episode didn't feature Brave Kyoryu Red at all. Plus, we did get a roll call with them, which we hadn't gotten so far, so that was really cool to see too. Mecha was awesome as always, and the most interesting development by far was Brave Kyoryuger, which we saw at the end of the second episode, ended up boarding his mecha and flying up to the villain ship and breaking in and just being like, hey, I'm a mercenary, hire me, I'll take out these Kyoryuger guys. That was really cool stuff. That was really cool. And that's pretty much all I gotta say about that. 80% of the show is fight scenes because it follows this typical Sentai formula of plot setup, monster attack, defeat, follow-up, character building, big fight, monster destroyed, monster gets big, and then conclusion. But because it's only 12 minutes and there's a minute and a half opening and a minute and a half ending, you're like 9 minutes of show here, so it clips by really fast. Kyoryuger Brave is never going to be the most deep or intrinsic Sentai show, and I don't think it ever set out to be, so that's fine. And it could be that they made the show this way so that it wouldn't outshine the regular Sentai show that airs in Korea, dubbed into Korean, so it doesn't like overstep that, but it's kind of strange. I think that both could coexist, technically. But, you know, that's pretty much it. Also, we don't know if they're actually even dubbing Zyuden, but I think they are, since there are Zyuden Judenshi in the Brave Kyoryuger, the Kyoryuger Brave line, so I don't know what's going on. Let's talk about Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. Kamen Rider Ex-Aid last week ended off on a big-ass cliffhanger, featuring the reveal that Kamen Rider Paradox is actually the evil side of Genius Gamer M personality, and he ended up fusing with Emu. And the thing is that this episode cleared it up that Kamen Rider Paradox was the bugster that was inside of Emu, and was the one that gave him that gamer personality. So basically, it was the bugster fed off his desire to be good at video games and play video games and have somebody to play video games with. And so Paradox was born from that. And so he was the bugster living inside of him. But that surgery that Emu had in the past was to actually remove Paradox. So ever since then, he's just been wanting to play games with Emu. That was his entire purpose in life. And so all of Kamen Rider Chronicles to force Emu to fight him. And it's a crazy, crazy villain plan here. It's also just the saltiness level is no higher than when Dan Kuroto's entire plot was because he was mad that somebody else came up with good game ideas. It's the villain's motivations can be seen as so shallow, but the way it's executed is just like that is the biggest deal to them, and that is just the most important thing for them to deal with. And it's so funny. It's so funny to see. But at the same time, it makes really good drama. Because of this, the interesting part is that because Emu and Paradox were fused, Paradox used the Mighty Brothers Double X Gashat, which, as we knew before, was splitting Emu's personalities into individual beings. And through that, they ended up fighting each other, which was pretty interesting. And that's when Emu decides to attack Paradox using the Gashikan Key Slasher and trying to reprogram him, but ended up reprogramming him to have him get human DNA, which allowed him to use a gamer driver and his Gashat Gear Duel to become a Kamen Rider Paradox Perfect Knockout Gamer level 99, who is just the most powerful rider possible, and it's so scary because he is so powerful. He's got a cool axe that turns into a gun, which is really awesome. Emu ended up having to fight him and was barely able to keep up. Brave and Snipe both used their level 50 Gashat Gear duels. It was nice to see Tattle Fantasy back, by the way. But they used the Gashat Gear duel. Both of them used the Gashat Gear duel, and they tried to fight him but had no luck. The thing is that it takes all the skill of Kamen Rider Paradox, but gives him all the power of the mighty Maximum X armor. So you're just dealing with the ultimate level with the ultimate gamer. So you just have an insane powerhouse of a character. And it's so interesting that this is now in the show. It's a great element to have. And I definitely think Kamen Rider Paradox is one of the best Rider villains we've gotten. And I really am looking forward to seeing more from this character. And yes, Bandai, you can make a Figuarts Perfect Knockout Gamer level 99, and I will buy it along with the other two Paradox figures. I want that trio. That'd be so cool. Suit design-wise, I love Perfect Knockout Gamer 99. It is a wonderful suit. I love the coat look to it, and I love the fusion of the Perfect Puzzle and Knockout Fighter designs. It looks really, really awesome. Anyways, that's it for Ex-Aid. Next week should be fun. And I do want to correct something. Yes, I now know that Kamen Rider Poppy has blue eyes in the opening, which means Kamen Rider Poppy will be back at some point. I don't think she's still possessing the Buko Driver 2, because if she was, she would have used it in this episode, but I think she will recover that at some point. We'll find out. So, without further ado, let's talk about the most happy show of the week, Kamen Rider Amazons. And I'm not even joking there, because Kyuranger was very dramatic but had this uplifting ending. Ex-Aid was very dramatic with a kind of a downer ending. Amazon Season 2 has been the bloodiest, goriest, unsettling, and, like, a disturbing mess to watch. Like, and I don't say mess as in, like, it's a messy show or a bad show. It's a good show. Mess is in the blood that's spilled. Amazon blood, human blood, organs on the ground, eyeballs being eaten, brains being dripped out. It's intense. This show is intense. This is like I get unsettled watching it sometimes. It's really intense. That being said, following up from the events last week, this episode was really tame. and it made me smile. How did it make me smile? Well, episode 4 of Amazon Season 2, Quo Vadis, we're following that naming scheme, so they had to figure out something with the Q, but clever name. This one involved Chihiro after being attacked by EU because Chihiro started to get the sensation that he wanted to eat the woman on the operating table from last week. And so EU attacked him because that's what she sees as the target, is when she senses an Amazon wanting to eat human flesh. So she's like, that's the target I must fight, which is not a bad system, but Chihiro is trying to control it. They try to give him a new armlet that will suppress that. And also we discovered that the injections that Chihiro and EU use are protein boosts. And that EU only eats through protein, and Chihiro only eats through those bagged juice things that he eats. So what's interesting is that Chihiro kidnaps EU, basically, takes her away. He's like, we're on a mission now. He was like, I'm on a mission right now. And they all go off to an amusement park, and EU, of course, being emotionally dead, because she's actually dead, just was not really connecting with any of it, and he was trying to jog her memories and see if she could feel any human emotions having fun in an amusement park. So they just leave, and they go on the amusement park, and it's just this nice sequence of things where he buys her clothes, and they get food, and he throws up the food because he can't eat the food, and she has trouble eating the food, and they go on rides, and she's just like following. He said, follow me for anything, so he's like trying to have fun, and she's just not, and there's like this great little photo booth scene. They're the cutest couple, let me tell you. They're the cutest couple. But, you know, it's kind of sad because it's the tragedy of it all, is that we know the good things are not coming to these people. But it was nice to have this episode that just made me smile. Eventually, they had to go fight the elephant Amazon from last week, and actually defeat him this time, which was awesome. And they actually saved somebody from dying for once. So, like I said, this was an uplifting episode for Amazons for sure. And what else happened? That was pretty much it on the Chihiro EU side of things. On the Extermination Team side, the old Extermination Team, like last week, we saw that 2 of the members of the previous Extermination Team showed up to the club, and they're getting the whole band back together because even though they were told to retire and go away, they decided to come back. What I thought was nice was that the kid, they're like trying to push the kid from last week. They're trying to push him away, like, hey, we know you want to kill the Amazons, but this isn't safe. You shouldn't do this. But he's like, oh, I'm going to do it, whether I'm on this team or not. They're like, all right, you're part of the team now. It was also nice to see, I can't remember his name right now. I'm blanking. There's a lot of characters in the show. The guy that got his arm eaten off last season. He was like the funniest dude in season 1. It's just with these lavish stories and just like all of his antics. And he's back again, and he makes the show funny. Like, he is the comic relief, and for the first 3 episodes of the show, we didn't have him, and it was just kind of made things really intense. There was no, like, levity, and he would always provide levity. And so now we have that, which is great, because he's like, pulling pranks with his fake arm, and he's just, like the new kid looks at him and is like, what's wrong with your arm? And he's like, oh, look at this, and they just pulls it off, and the guy's like, ah. It's just, like, it's so funny how he's made the fact that he lost an arm just into a joke that he does on people now. It's just such a light-hearted character, and it's really nice to see, and it was cool to see Extermination Team again. They ended up tracking down the water source that the water cooler company used for a short period of time is what is turning people into Amazons. And so they track it down, and so does Fukuda. So we got Fuku. The whole original Extermination Team is back, except for Mamoru and Haruka. And speaking of Mamoru, guess who shows up at the end of this episode? Mamoru shows up. He's like, hey guys, how's it going? Don't get in my way. I got a plan here. And I'm like, oh crap. Is Mamoru now become our main villain? Next episode preview shows a brand new Mole Amazon evolved form. And I'm like really excited to see where this is going, because it could be super interesting if they made the heroes of last season into the villains of this season. Also, as an Amazon Alpha fanboy that I am, since I love that suit design, I thought that character was fantastic in Season 1, and I've been missing seeing him this whole season. They name-dropped Jin this episode and talked about some things related to him, so hoping he comes up soon. I really want to see Alpha back because I liked Alpha. So really looking forward to what's coming up in this season. This season's been fantastic. This is a well-produced show. This is a very good show, but a very dark show. This was our nice break moment, and I kind of hope the show balances out where it's like it's gotten its gore fest out of the way, and we can kind of like settle into this. Not everybody that is attacked by an Amazon has to die, because that was kind of nice. Um, but I would definitely like to see the show kind of take not necessarily like a lighter tone, but just kind of like having the levity brought about by our favorite armless extermination team member, and also just the moments between Shihiro and Iu where she's just like, I don't have any emotions, and he's like, I want you to have emotions. It's really cool stuff to see, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of this season. Now that this episode happened, last week I was a little bit like, not necessarily disgusted. Yeah, I was a little disgusted by like episode 2 was disgusting to me. And I'm just like, I'm glad to see the show kind of like, it turned itself around a bit, and I really am looking forward to seeing more. It's going to be a fun time for sure. It's definitely going to be it's probably going to get darker. Like, honestly, that's guaranteed to happen at this point. But, I think that it's going to be enjoyable to watch now because there are those other elements in play that were in Season 1 that made Season 1 fun to watch. So, we'll see how it goes and see what happens with next week in Kamen Rider Amazons. So that does it for this week in Toku, and that does it for the Soundcast this week. Thank you all for listening. I know this week's episode was a little shorter, but that's how it goes sometimes. So stay tuned for next week. We'll talk about new shows, and we'll talk about new news, and I'll have a new opinion segment. And stay tuned for more Kyuranger reviews coming up on this channel, because I got a bunch coming up in the near future. So subscribe for more. Check out any past videos you may have missed. And till next time, this is Sanat saying goodbye.